Hello everyone, this is Sass, author of the Phoenix Strike Assassin Guide for Project Diablo 2, and I figured it was about time to finally write, or I guess make a video of, a proper Phoenix Strike Assassin Guide. We recently got hit by a nerf, which was actually a bug fix to be fair. We no longer leech to full health every time we hit anything with any attack. How unfair. I know. Um, Basically the bug was if you had Cobra Strike anywhere in your skill tree, whether it was from an item like a staff mod on a claw, or whether it was a prerequisite for Phoenix Strike, or you were a Cobra Strike main, no matter what, if you had Cobra Strike in your skill tree, any attack you made healed you to full health. The end. That was it. No matter how much leech you had, full health every time. So that kind of made the build way tankier than it actually was supposed to be. And now that they came out and they fixed that, I wanted to make sure the build was still playable, still viable. It totally is. I didn't notice a single difference, to be honest, unless you run into might packs. Those are a little terrifying now. But I ran a tier 3 sewers map with minus 22% resistances and minus 14% block rate, and I took off my chains of honor, and I just face tanked it. It didn't die. Didn't notice a difference. I had to use a few rejuve potions for the might packs, and that's it. So I just want to make sure that that was still viable, and I believe it's more due to playstyle than actual build or items that people are sometimes struggling, because people are reporting that they're dying more often now. And so I just want to kind of go through with an actual gameplay guide, because it is very unique, and it is probably the most difficult quote-unquote build in the game to play optimally. It's something you have to actually think about and plan around, which I don't think you really have to do for most builds. Like Death Sentry Go Burt, you got your multi-shot Zons, you got your Javazons. You just throw stuff dies at the end. And Phoenix Strike isn't really like that if you want to play it optimally. So first things first, probably start off with explaining how the skill works. So Phoenix Strike cycles through 3 elements, because it looks fancier over here. You have Meteor for charge 1, then you have this cool lightning effect for charge 2, and then you have Freezy Chaos Bolts, which is like a frost orb, but only the little shards. So you go 1 for Meteor, 2 for Lightning, which, as you may have just noticed, doesn't always animate. That's a bug. It goes out. It's just invisible. You'll hear the lightning effects and stuff will die. And then 3, also bugged. Let's see if we can get the visual cues, huh? We got Meteor. Lightning. Hello? Maybe this area has too many pixels. I'm honestly not quite sure what causes this bug, where it doesn't animate the proper part of the skill. But as you can see, I have 2 orbs, meaning the lightning did go out, and I did land the attack. But now let's try. Really? You know, I give up. Let's try another game, huh? Let's try this again. Of course, now that I want to make a guide, things are just all kinds of broken. So we got Meteor. Lightning, there we go. Freeze? Freeze? Oh, invisible freeze. But you can see, it does go out. It's just invisible. I'm sure we'll see plenty of it when I run the map later. But that's the idea. And by having all 3 elements, nothing is immune to you. You never have to just run by a mob. If you've leveled fire traps, you know how painful it is. You run into those fire immunes, late nightmare, early hell. You can't do anything about it. You either, well, on a first playthrough, obviously, fresh gear. But you see a whole pack of fire immunes, I hope you also max charge bolt sentry, because otherwise you have to run past shit, and that sucks. You never have to do that with Phoenix Strike, ever. It's incredible. I love it. I would actually suggest leveling as Phoenix Strike if you're the type of player who hates immunes like I do. I believe it's much easier, and you provide awesome group utility with the freeze. Anywho, going on. So for the actual skill tree, we obviously need the prerequisites. So 1 Tiger Strike, 1 Cobra Strike. I'm a fan of maxing all 3 synergies. Cold will do the least amount of damage. Obviously, it's doing like 2,500 average here compared to 6-ish thousand for Meteor and like 6,000-ish average for Lightning as well. But it can hit multiple times. It doesn't appear to have hit delay. And so when you get 3 or 4 bolts going through 1 target, it does actually add up. So I am a big fan of maxing all 3 synergies. And Blaze of Ice itself is actually the most consistent and hardest hitting martial art skill of the 4 elemental attacks here. So if you run into something that's fire and lightning immune, switch to Blades of Ice, melts so fast. It's awesome. Also very much suggested it for Chaos Sanctuary runs against those Venom Lords. So that's the basic. We'll ignore this stuff on the right side for now. We'll go to Shadow Disciplines, always. You want Claw and Dagger Mastery as a prerequisite. Then you get Burst of Speed. We'll talk about the point total later. So you get the increased attack speed and run walk, which is awesome for leveling. And then Fade, similar thing, awesome for leveling. If you need resists, if you're hardcore, you'll run this all the time. It's an awesome skill. If you end up deciding to try dual wield, which is a little riskier now, you can get weapon block. The unique thing about weapon block is it can block spells and even elemental terrain effects, such as Fire Lord fire patches. And that sounds awesome, but it also doesn't work while running. The Project Diablo 2 devs have said it should be working while running. It does not. You can easily test it by running to Council and Travancore and running around in circles. You will not block a single thing. We don't know why. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. But now with this Leech thing and us taking more damage on average, or rather, I guess not healing back from it as quickly, that might be a concern, especially if you're hardcore. Highly suggest Storm Shield now. And then lastly, in the Traps tree, we actually can pick up Blade Shield. It's not going to do a ton of damage, only 3/4 of your weapon damage, but it does hit everything around you in a small radius, and each of those hits will leech. So now that Leech is harder to come by for us, this is a big boon to survivability still, and it can put smaller enemies into hit recovery, more tankiness, yada yada. Now for Dragonflight, I believe this is mandatory now, whether you get it from a Plague, Ruin Word, Claw as a staff mod skill, or if you actually put hard points into it. This is a lifesaver. It keeps you super mobile. It helps to avoid projectiles. It actually increases your clear time by using charges, which I will explain now as well. So this works for any finisher. I just use Dragonflight because it's actually useful. So let's get 2 charges. There's Fire Lightning. I have 2 charges right now. We teleport. Or I use the wrong ability. Embarrass myself and my family. Second charge, where are you at? My god. So we have 2 charges. Teleport kick. Fire and meteors, same time. That is a huge damage gain when you're doing maps. 1, 2, teleport. 1, 2, teleport. You're doing double meteors, double lightnings. Those are your main damage abilities. And that is awesome. It also, as I said earlier, keeps you on the move, so you're not going to be hit by as many quill rats, as many ranged projectiles, which is a huge deal for minimizing the damage you take. So that's the skill tree we've gone over here. I do suggest once you finish putting all your points into your synergies, max these guys out. I'm a fan of weapon block because I like the dual wield and I'm softcore. Otherwise, burst of speed levels. So you only get increased attack speed in Project Diablo 2 with hard points. So you have to physically put points, click it, to get that attack speed. So the attack speed breakpoints you want, with Bartuks specifically, is 60% increased attack speed without running Burst of Speed. If you decide to run Burst of Speed, 1 hard point of level 1 Burst of Speed, you'll need 23 attack speed on your gear somewhere. So maybe 2 shales, maybe a glove and a shale. So that 2%, or those 2 items will get you 40%. With level 1 Burst of Speed, you're good. Level 2 Burst of Speed, you only need 15%. So just 1 shale, just 1 pair of gloves, you're good. Or, if you're softcore and lazy, if you put 7 hard points to get to 41%, you're done. You don't need any attack speed on your gear anywhere. The reason, even though this says 41% and I just said you need 60, Burst of Speed gives you what they call effective increased attack speed. It calculates differently is all you need to know. You're at the max breakpoint once you hit this 41% on the Burst of Speed, 7 hard points. So, now that we got the boring stuff out of the way, let's look at the gear. So Bartuks is definitely best in slot. You get hit recovery off of it. You get added flat damage, which converts to more leech. You get bonus attack rating. You get lifesteal. The mana leech is because I have a skull in here. This is from way back when. Please forgive me. You also get free strength and dex on it, and 4 to all skills. Well, the skills you use. So you can dual wield these for a total of +8 to your Phoenix Strike. Options for sockets would be, I went with ists here, but now you can do faucets because fun discovery is that faucets, the increased percent actually works. We had assumed it did not because it doesn't show on the character sheet. There was nothing in the patch notes about it. And in the original game, they did not work, the +% to elemental damage for Phoenix Strike. Now they do. The reason we believe this is because Vlada was going through the skill files and found that this synergy was turned on, and the same formatting was done for Cobra Strike, and so they just failed to update the tooltip. So your tooltips will not go up if you put a faucet in. It's just sort of hidden. You just got to pretend it's there, but it does in fact work. So now faucets and weapons, definitely worth more looking into. I definitely would now replace these ists with faucets. But ist also an option. You want a magic find, you want to go fast, there you go. So for our helmet, Kira's Guardian. This bad boy has 5 to 10% elemental pierce for all 3 elements we use. That's already awesome. It comes with all resistances up to 45, incredible, and has cannot be frozen by default. Obviously, I got +1 to all skills, corruption, 2 Larzik socket, probably a dream helmet right here. Awesome, awesome. You could run Steel Shade. It works out to be about 3% enemy cold resist, lightning resist, fire resist, all 3. About 2 to 3% is about the equivalent to 1 skill once you start getting more gear. So if you rolled like an 8 and 9% to all elements, that's almost as good as a +3 Shaco. So just something to think about as far as elemental scaling goes. Amulet, you'll probably want Mara's, maybe High Lords now. This is obviously garbage amulets. I found it when I was leveling and I just never replaced it. But Mara's will give you a lot more resistance, let you play around with your slots some more. A lot of people like to run Stone. I am a fan of Changes of Honor now, specifically because it gives you this increased damage to demons and undead, which increases your melee swings, which means more Leech. So I'm now an advocate. I used to say they're preference-based. I would now suggest Chains of Honor, or maybe just try any enhanced damage armor piece that's cheaper just to see how it feels when you have that added damage to Leech. It also obviously comes with all resistances, skills, awesome. But Stone, also totally a viable option. Gloves, +3 and maybe Mana Leech, or increased attack speed if you aren't going the versus speed route. You can shop these from Anya, by the way. They're always this color. So you can enter Anya's portal. Doing a bonus round here. I guess this is a comprehensive guide, huh? So we'll enter the portal. You open it up with Anya. Make sure you have gold to buy it. She only has 1 armor screen. You see it's not yellow. You would leave, come back. This only works when nobody else is in the town, by the way. It's like, oh, not quite the right yellow, but it's always a sort of dark golden yellowish color. So if you want to shop it, option. You can also shop +3 martial arts claws starting at level 75. So that's a leveling option. Just while we're here, thought I'd point that out. Moving on. For rings, you're generally going to want something with plus skills to it. Obviously, always good. You could do a Nagel ring for Magic Find. The +1 unique Bulkathos ring is an option. Stone of Jordan, Wisp would be Biss, but that thing is like 5 HRs at the season start for shit rolls, so not in everybody's price range. I'm running faster cast rate to mess around with Dragonflight, that I'll explain later, but otherwise you always want life, resists, Leech. Dual Leech rings would be really awesome, which leads us to our belt here. I'm a fan of Verds because it gives you hit recovery, as well as like a whole bunch of vitality and physical damage reduction. String of Ears is an option as well. Nosferatu would give you more Leech, but I don't really think it's worth it because you want the damage reduction. The boots, War Traps, especially because it adds a flat 15 to 25 damage. That's really awesome for a low base damage attacker that needs it for that extra Leech. And who doesn't love extra 49, 50% magic find, right? So that's just sort of the general gear. For boots, you could go with like Water Walks for faster block rate. You can go with anything with resistances and faster run walk, more or less. For shields, if you don't want to dual wield, Monarch if you're hardcore, or Monarch. Storm Shield Monarch if you're hardcore, probably always the safest bet. You can go with Gurks, which is sort of the offensive version of Storm Shield. It gives you +1 skills, plus all res, and has a pretty good base block rate. So those are just some general gearing options. For weapon swap, I always go with the teleport staff. Even though we have DragonFlight, which can teleport to a target, you don't always have a target, so just having this on backup, always really nice. For skillers, you're going to want life. Maybe you want to hit your faster hit recovery frames, so that's an option. But +1 martial arts across the board, because Phoenix Strike scales with elemental damage and skills, not flat damage. Obviously, we have the Hellfire Charm. I did not get an Annihilus Charm before I quit, sadly. Small charms can be all res, any res plus magic find, hit recovery, attack rating if you really need it. Which also reminds me, another ring option is Ravenfrost, because you're going to want to hit about 10,000 attack rating if you don't have Infinity. And Ravenfrost by itself, thanks to Phoenix Strike gaining this extra attack at the bottom here, that's referring to attack rating. A Ravenfrost is like 3,000 AR by itself. So also a great option. Obviously, you already have Can't Be Frozen on Kira's, but, 3,000 AR is kind of hard to pass up. But with Infinity, which also lowers enemy defenses, you probably only need about 8,000. That's pretty comfy. So now that we've gone through all this, you just want enough strength to equip Bartuk's or your armor, whatever's higher. So in this case, it would have been 79, and I have a bunch from gear. Dexterity, you can either pump for attack resist or attack rating or for block rating if you need it. It also increases your flat damage with claws, so that's always nice. And then obviously you can pump the rest into vitality, but the minimum dex would be 79. I would highly suggest more for attack rating and block rating though. And just while we're talking about it, it does not affect your chance to block with dual wield claws. The only thing that increases your chance to block is the actual skill level. Nothing else. No chance to block on items, no dex, nothing. Just the skill itself. And it gets hard diminishing returns around 58%. Most assassins are going to be around 50 to 55. So there's going over the stats, items, the skill itself. Over DragonFlight. So let's just pop into a map.
Not in town.
This is my personal favorite map, the Tier 2 Torrejon jungle. Big fan. I like the layout. We play it really well as the build works for itself. This is a pretty mid-tier map, I'd say, so it's pretty good representation of like the average map. You'll just roll rare. Maybe you don't have a whole bunch of gold to keep re-rolling. About 90 density. Sort of annoying. Physical damage is extra poison. They have extra life, but can't be choosers. Plus, I'm almost out of gold anyways. So we start with our Blade Shield, our Burst of Speed. And now, before I actually start fighting, or I guess, move visual. So just sort of remember that meteor up there. Let's see that meteor though. You'll notice it's still burning. Still burning. Still burning. This original, it's still burning. Maybe you'll get what I'm implying here, because it's still burning. It burns for a total of 20 seconds. What that means is that in order to efficiently clear with a Phoenix Strike Assassin, as counterproductive as your decade of playing Diablo 2 might feel, you actually don't want to swing at things until they die. So what I'm doing right now, huge waste of time. And I believe this is the main difference in clear speeds between different assassins, is the newer assassins will do this. They will click everything until it dies. Maybe they do a few attacks and move on, but they stay in this sort of area, in this pack, and I'm like, oh, I gotta kill it, I gotta kill it. Oof. Mana burn. And they just swing at stuff manually by hand until it dies. But look at all this time you're wasting. Look at all this fire, all this 5,000 damage per second that's going to waste. So what if instead we did 1, 2, teleport, 1, 2, teleport, get interrupted, teleport, 1, 2, teleport, 1, 2. Obviously I'm going much slower than I usually would. But yeah, we just sort of, the meteors do some work, just move on. Teleport, meteor, moving on. Meteor kick, teleport, meteor, moving on. Meteor, not coming out, move on. Meteor. So a lot of time that newer Phoenix Strike Assassins are just throwing away is when they keep swinging even as meteor is dropping. Like why would you keep swinging when your 5,000 to 8,000 damage meteor is animating down? And why would you waste those 20 awesome seconds of burn damage? Just let it do the work for you, right? And so now I'll sort of do a faster example of what I mean. So it might not necessarily be a speed run, but sort of the gist here. Now, one annoying thing about DragonFlight, which I do kind of wish they would buff, is it does have a 2-second cooldown. So what I sort of get into the rhythm of doing is we attack a few times, we teleport when it's off cooldown. We teleport, attack a few times, lay a few meteors, teleport. Attack a few times, teleport. And so you just let the meteors do the work. Oh! Okay, well there's a good example. So I'm recovering from my potion, right? I took that spike damage. I'll watch my health when I just sort of dive into things head first. Like, okay, get sort of spiked there. Sort of recovering slowly. So if I hit one target, looks like I went from about 820 to 860, so maybe 40 health. That one was only about 20 health per swing. So it's like, oof, that's kind of scary, right? I see people coming into Discord and they're like, oh, I barely leech for any damage. And like, yeah, when you hit one target, you're leeching for 30 health per target. But if we just dive in with no regard for our safety, well, I already healed back to full. Which is sort of my point is, as soon as you get into groups of like 3 or 4, if not more, it's basically completely unchanged from before the patch, before the fix. You're still out healing the damage you're being dealt. You just can't spend your time attacking 1 or 2 targets, and you can't stay in place like these quill rats in the distance. They do a ton of damage. So why would you why would you stand still and just tank that damage when you have a teleport move that also gives you free meteors and free lightning, and it's a free repositioning tool? So I think a really big issue that a lot of Phoenix Strike Assassin players had, or are having, is they aren't taking advantage of the meteors and they aren't taking advantage of DragonFlight. So just let it do work. Boom, it died. I'll just chill over here. I don't care. Alright, Mercenary do some work. 1, 2, 3. You can see I'm at 800 health. 600 health. So I was like, ooh, that's kind of scary. There's 4 targets. I'm up to 900 health. Up to 1200 health. Like, I honestly haven't noticed a difference. Like, I'll notice my bar is low, and I'll be like, oh, that feels a little scary. But I'm not actually dying. And we're back up to full. And so long as you keep moving and keep using DragonFlight off cooldown, you really shouldn't be taking that much damage that you can't just heal back. Okay. Fanaticism, a little scarier. Now I will say you definitely want to look out for burst damage. So you see like a ranged might pack, you see a bunch of quill boars with might, maybe you should be a little slower, a little more careful. Maybe don't teleport into them. Same, just fanaticism in general. Anything that really amplifies their damage. If you get cursed with amplify damage, maybe get out of there. I'm so sorry for everybody who's triggered by me not looting. But I sort of quit playing like 3 weeks ago, so I'm just here sort of for the guide. But yeah, we'll just throw down some fire. And that's really all there is to it. Now the main difference here is that it definitely requires a little more effort, a little more thinking than any of the other builds. Like, if all you care about is being meta, being the fastest possible build, being like an S tier class and build, like, go with Death Sentry. Death Sentry Fire Trapper, for whatever reason, Death Sentry is broken right now. It says it does 10% corpse damage and a little flat bonus. It's doing way more than that. It's 1 or 2 shotting mobs, which you get enough gear. So something in the scaling is broken. Couldn't tell you what it is, but something. So if that's what you care about, then yeah. But if you feel like this more in-depth, oh, there you go. Fanaticism, you gotta look out. Multiple shots, just fanaticism. So that is the risk now. Before the patch, I would not have died, because each of those melee swings that I was throwing out would have healed you to full.
Yes.
Now I just gotta, can't embarrass myself like that. And I have no gold for my mercenary. Oh well. But that's sort of the idea. of the build that's sort of how to play it a little more effectively is you don't want to be swinging at things until they die manually. Just boop. Like, don't waste your time. Just attack a few times, move on, teleport. Rinse, repeat. I think that's about it for all of the core stuff. I will go over some leveling optimizations though, which is actually great timing. My merc died. So if not now, then when? So let's say you're like level 35-ish Phoenix Strike. It's pretty early in the season. You don't have a mercenary with Infinity. Duh. Well then, maybe you're tired of running pits. And so you say, well, I have 35 Phoenix Strike, which I might actually simulate by taking off some of my stuff. Oh, that's right, it has a cooldown. Cursed game. Hello? 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 I don't know what that was about, to be quite honest with you. So I desynced? I had to have been desynced. Cursed. Fuck me. Ooh, sick frame drops for that. So, I'm obviously level 47 Phoenix Strike, so let's just fix that real quick.
I can't.
Oh, I can't.
Impossible.
Just to sort of show what your damage might be looking like earlier in the season. 40 is still a little high. Okay, so we're level 35. I just lost my claw block, by the way, so this will be much less tanky. And so we'll just sort of Phoenix Strike, see what the damage is looking like. It's not bad. Obviously, I have Faucets and Fire Pierce as well, but Kira should be pretty affordable early on. Pretty common drop. We're the only build that uses it, and we're not even the best assassin build. So it should be pretty affordable to at least get that 10%. It's like, it's not bad. Okay, level 35. But then, you're on into Venom Lords. In theory. Any day now. Any day now. And considering 35, that would be what? You could shop 2 Anya Claws for +6. A +3 Martial Arts Amulet for like an Orb of Corruption. So that'll be 29. And then maybe you have a Treachery, there's 31. Oh god, they're undead. So you're at 31, so maybe you have like 1 Skiller, or maybe you found like 1 Bartuck, so you're somewhere in the 30 to 35 range. So that's pretty doable, like day 3 maybe of the season, depending on if you like took work off, how long you're playing. And this is embarrassing because did I get a spawn with no Venom Lords? Okay. So there was the Ice Charge. They're immune to fire. It's like, ooh, that's a little scary. It was like 5 or 6 attacks and he was already half health. And so for optimization, what you can do is they have 75% resistance to lightning, but only 50% to cold. So if I swap, let's compare Phoenix. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 attacks. Let's show me the money. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4. So maybe we left-click Phoenix, right-click Blades of Ice. Oh, well, these guys are only immune to fire. And you'll notice that Blades of Ice actually does more damage than Phoenix does to the guys that are immune to fire. And so that's another really cool thing you can actually optimize as you start learning the different resist levels of various monsters, and just through testing and watching how much damage they take. It's like, these guys are super weak to ice. Let's 2 or 3 attacks each at level 35. That much damage. 1 Blades of Ice. What? Sir. Anywho, so that's just sort of something you can look at as well. Alright, here's future me. after the embarrassing death. But to be fair, it was invisible, whatever that necromancer move is that hunts you down. Bone spirit. Wasn't me. Um, so that's sort of just
Not in
a
town.
general overview of sort of how to increase your clear times and also kind of explaining and going through how I manage to usually stay alive, but there are risks now, such as fanaticism and might packs. That seems to only be the major problem I've run into, and with those, I ran out of rejuves. If I had a rejuvenation, I probably would have been fine. So if you just keep one or two slots of rejuvenations in your belts, as every other build honestly should be, even before
Not
the
here.
change. That's just how broken we were. We didn't even think about rejuves because our melee auto attacks were rejuves. Um, that you'll be totally fine if all you do is you run a couple of rejuves, maybe a health potion slot and a mana potion slot. Just very general, generic stuff that any build would do in case
Not
you
in
run into
town.
mana burn. So you're not just swinging with basic melee strikes. So overall, after the nerfs, I would say maybe a B tier now. Easily A tier before if you compare it to Death Sentry as being S tier, or a fully geared Jabazon as being S tier for mapping. Before I would have said we were easy A, now I'd say maybe A minus B plus, especially considering all the effort and mental fortitude you have to put into the build to get it to perform well. Some other last minute tips are prioritizing dangerous threats, so don't ignore Quillbores. Make sure you're going after the most threatening attackers that are just pumping you full of damage, taking advantage of your freeze more often. So I was actually getting a little too willy-nilly with fire lightning charges on Dragonflight. Probably could have been okay if I was just using normal Phoenix Strike in that pack, where they would have froze. And so just taking advantage of your freeze, keeping your rejuve just in case, mainly for might packs and fanaticism packs, and also the act bosses or the map bosses, because now they're basically all single target, so you're only going to be healing like 30 to 70 health. And even though they'll melt pretty fast because Meteor does stack, you're still definitely going to be wanting to run potions for the various map and act bosses now. So just something to keep in
Not
mind.
here.
I hope this was helpful. I didn't have enough time. It's already long enough as it is, but there's all sorts of mechanics like your offhand stat modifiers that do or don't work. I might do an even more in-depth assassin guide overview maybe for season 3 if that's something people are interested in. I know a lot more about the assassin than I know about most things in life, so if that's something people are interested in, just let me know and I will get on it. Thank you so much, and I hope you have fun out there in Sanctuary.